The Last of Us. Many people liked watching this series and may have been waiting for its Season 2. And you know what? There is an update regarding The Last of Us Season 2 and we're going to talk about it all in this video. Stay with us till the end of the video to find out what's new, and let's get started. The scene begins with Ellie standing at a dance, and from behind, we can see her just taking it all in. This picture is fundamental because it's the same one they used at E3 to first hint at The Last of Us Part 2. It was one of the first times we saw the game, and it set the tone for what was to come. Now that the show is in its second season, they're using the same shot again, but this time, they've changed the order a bit. After all, why stick to the original plan when you can change things up? The story from Part 2 will go on for 2 seasons. This dance scene didn't just come up until the end of the game, but in the show, they moved it up. Most likely because they didn't want to keep us waiting for an answer, especially since Season 3 might not come out until 2027, and also, who has that much time? We learned that Ellie went back to the hospital to find out what happened to the Fireflies. That's when things between her and Joel start to get bad. Their connection used to be warm and fatherly, but now it's very cold. Joel has lost his daughter again, but this time, it's because of the lies he told and the decisions he made. All of this background sets up some extra scenes that didn't happen in the game, but will probably happen in the show. I'll talk about those soon. Okay, so for a moment, things are pretty good at the dance. Ellie does something which is a big deal for her. There must be a problem though. When the bartender sees it happening, he or she decides to be a jerk and calls Ellie a slur. That's when Joel steps in and smashes the guy. Actually, there is another picture of this scene that was just posted online. In it, Joel is seen standing on the dance floor with these lights behind him. That's a beautiful shot right out of the game. Now, that night, Ellie and Joel have one of those serious, heartfelt talks. You know, the kind where everything is clear and the air is heavy with feeling. She tells Joel that she is ready to try, but she doesn't know if she can ever forgive him for what he did. It's a big moment because it shows how torn she is between loving Joel and feeling betrayed by him. On top of that, Ellie knows that being resistant could make a lot of people pay attention to her in a bad way. If people knew about her, they'd go crazy. That's why she's trying to hide the bite mark on her arm. She puts acid on the bite mark to make it burn, and then she gets a tattoo over it. This element is likely to be shown in the show as well, with the tattoo getting filled in bit by bit as the story goes on. This is where things get interesting. Catherine O'Hara is a new figure that we meet. Some people think she will be bad, but I'm not sure. I think she may be a therapist. Joel only has his brother to talk about what he's been through. Honestly, your family will only take so much before they tell you to get help from a professional. So, it looks like Joel might go to Catherine for help. She probably knows what happened with the Fireflies, and Joel might tell her because therapists are supposed to keep things private. There are even panic attacks for Joel in the show, which we never saw in the game. He made a good choice because it shows how much all of this has been bothering him. He might be seeing Catherine for this reason, and that's the big shocking moment when Abby kills Joel. I know this is a big spoiler, but we all knew it was going to happen at some point, right? In the show, we will see how this moment came about. After Joel dies, Tommy goes on the hunt for Abby like no other. Ellie can't just watch him do it, so she goes after Tommy. I think Catherine, the therapist, could be more helpful in this case. She could show Ellie how much Joel loved her, which would make her want to get even more payback. At that point, we see Ellie screaming in her bed, and given that Ellie has PTSD, it makes sense that she's remembering the moment Joel died. Many people have different ideas about who will play Abby, but Kaitlyn Dever's name keeps coming up. She looks a lot like Bella Ramsey, who plays Ellie, so people think she'd be great in the part. They look so much alike that it's kind of creepy, and the show seems to play on these similarities. Ellie and Abby sound a lot alike, even in their names. Like they're building up the idea that these two characters are exact copies of each other and will eventually fight. Further in the story, we see a lot of people running toward the outside wall of Jackson, where Tommy is standing guard with a sniper gun. It has a whole scene where Tommy shows Ellie how to snipe. Tommy is a great shot. It was not in the trailer that people were running toward the wall in this scene. It's new to the show, but we can get a sense of when it's happening from the snow and the place. Early in the trailer, there is a huge group of infected going through the area, and Abby and her group get caught up in it. They're also in the middle of a blizzard, making it very hard for them to stay alive. Tom and Joel are also out there trying to stay alive. Ellie and Dana have another job to do, and while this is going on, the Horde starts chasing Abby, which causes Joel and Tommy to step in. In one part of the clip, Abby is seen trying to get through a fence while she's stuck under it. The mob is about to catch up to her, so this is a tense moment. They look like Joel, Tommy, and Abby, and they are running through the snow. There is a woman in front of them with brown hair. She may be Ellie, but it's not clear. That being said, this group is way too big to be Abby's gang. They might be other people who were in the area when the Horde hit, though, and they're likely running to Jackson to stay safe. The way the teaser is cut together makes it look like Tommy is pointing his gun at them, but I think he's more likely shooting at the crowd that is after them. They might tell Tommy that there are more people out there, which would make him and Joel go look for them. Some people also think that the show might have scenes that were supposed to be in part 2 of the game, but were cut. It looks like Abby and her group were supposed to sneak into Jackson, stay there for a few days, and find out who was who before they made their move. In the final game though, that part was cut down and Joel and Tommy were told to find Abby instead, which is what happened. The gang might sneak into Jackson with a group of people who are being chased by the Horde though, and if that thought comes up again in the show. Not only that, but we could also see that the Seraphites, who are also called Scars, coming in after this. They're running through a forest at night, which looks a lot like the part of the game where Abby meets Lev and Yara for the first time. These two figures are Scars, and they join forces with Abby after running away from their kind. In the game, the Scars tie them up, but they get away and run through the woods while the infected chase them. These events might be the ones that cause Abby to change her mind and start to doubt her loyalty. They cut out a lot of scenes with the sick in the first season and show, so that it was more about the drama between people. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something similar here. There may also be more times when we see the Scars in motion. There is also a lot of room for emotional scenes because the Seraphites are a creepy group with their religious fanaticism and cruel ways. We also see Dana holding a lantern, which leads to a shot of Ellie firing an assault gun. The teaser then cuts to a snowy mountain, which is likely where we meet Abby in the game. After that, we go to Isaac, who is played by Jeffrey Wright. He is in charge of the WLF, which is what Abby is in before she goes bad. Isaac is a cruel boss, and in the game, he is a big part of the fight between the WLF and the Scars. When Abby chooses to side with Lev and Yara, she turns against Isaac. Some of the most exciting parts of the game happen because of this big change in her character. I wouldn't be surprised if the show continued this plot, showing us more about Isaac's goals and the battles going on inside the WLF. He says, "I saved her," at the end of the video to explain the decisions he made back at the hospital. Joel thinks he made the right choice because he couldn't stand the thought of losing another daughter. We have to face the moral ambiguity of his deeds, which makes the moment powerful. Some people believe that the Fireflies would not have been able to make a cure even if they had tried, which makes Joel's choice even more difficult. A lot of people would likely do the same thing if it were their children. With psychological elements like panic attacks and therapy sessions, the show gives these people and the choices they make a whole new level of depth. Which character do you like the most in The Last of Us? Share with us in the comment section below. If you enjoyed watching the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.